All right, we're going to install a farm gate. Some people call it a tube gate. This is a 10-foot gate. And so what I want to point out here is by 10 feet, they don't mean the distance from one side of the gate to the other. By 10 feet, what they mean is the distance for a two-way gate, the distance you're going to have in between your posts. So if these were my gate post right here, that would be my distance from here to here. Needs to be 10 feet. If I was going to do a 1-foot gate, I would take my distance from right here in the center of the post to the center of my other post. And I would go, you're going to want to measure your gate out to get that perfect. But that, again, that's for a one-way gate. So you can hinge off of this side of the post and butt up or put your latch on this side of this post. And then when you close your gate, it'll stop at this post rather than swinging both ways. I'm going to install this as a two-way gate. So I need my distance for a 10-foot gate to be 10 foot exactly between these two posts. If it's a 12-foot gate, you're going to go 12 foot between the posts. 14-foot gate is 14 foot between the posts. So it's a little bit confusing the way they do this, but what they do is they allow for the distance it's going to take for this hinge to go in, and then the distance it's going to take for a latch to go on the door. So if you look here, this gate is actually 116 inches. So it's not 10 feet. It's 4 feet short of 10 feet. And what that does, that gives you room for your hinge. And that's going to be your hinge sucked all the way in tight. And then it also gives you room for, like, if you're going to use a farm latch. These come with a chain for latching. The chain just fits through this little slot they have welded on here. Normally I cut that chain off and I use actual latches. I'll show you some pictures of some latches I have here when we get closer to the end of this video. But this isn't a gate that's going to be used. In fact, I have no plans to use it anytime in the immediate future. It's one of those gates that I'm putting in to just in case I ever need a gate in this area. It's easier to put the gate in now than to try to take the fence down and put in a gate and then put the fence back up. So for now, I'm probably just going to stay with the chain to keep this one last. If it's a gate I use all the time or even once a day, then I like to use the actual farm latches. It's a whole lot easier than wrapping the chain and hooking it through the thing every time. It gets to be a pain, trust me. So here's one thing. Now, I don't want guesses, but if you work for a gate manufacturer and you actually know why they do this, do please tell me in the comments, because it drives me nuts. So this is the bottom rail of the gate right here. Look what they do. They extend this side tube. We're 3.5 inches past the bottom of the gate. All right. This is the side that swings open. That's my hinge side. They've done the same thing down there. Okay. So what happens is, one, you can only get your gate this close to the ground, and then this thing bites in and drags on the ground. Yeah, at least the tube here will kind of roll across the ground or something. This straight out bites in. It drives me nuts that they leave that little piece on these fences, but every fence I've looked at, they do. So what I'm going to do here is solve that problem. I'm going to get my tape measure out of the way. So I am going to eliminate that problem. And then I'm gonna flip it around. You don't necessarily have to cut this end off. You know, if you want your gate, if you don't mind your gate being that high off the ground, I like, with the dogs, I like to get the gates as low to the ground as I can possibly get them. So I'm gonna flip this over. I'm gonna cut this side off. And then since I have bare metal down there, I'm gonna go ahead and, what was that movie? The Big Fat Greek Wedding or something like that, where the guy uses Windex for everything. Well, this is my Windex. This Rust-Oleum cold galvanizing compound. I use this thing on everything. Rusty or squeaky door hinges, I'll spray this stuff on there. Bare metal, I'll spray this stuff on there. It doesn't rust. It keeps it from rusting. And then, you know, you can put another color you want over it. It's just a dull gray color. Almost looks like a primer. I guess it's intended to match the galvanized metal. But I'm going to spray some of this while I have the gate off, so I can get this bare metal down here so it doesn't rust on me. So I'll go ahead and I'll spray that. I'll cut that other side off and spray that. And I mean, this stuff's even good for deodorant, I think. I don't know, maybe you probably have to read the label to find out for sure. But it's good for spraying on bare metal, I'll tell you that. I like it. So I use it for everything. But I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna get this flipped over, cut that other side off, get this paint. I'm gonna let that paint dry for about a good hour. And then I'm gonna carry this down to where we're gonna install it. And yeah, here's another thing. I gotta carry this thing. So look at all that weight I took off. That's that much less weight I got to carry down the hill. So we're gonna stop this video and then I'll pick it up. Oh, well, let's cover this while I'm up here. This is these come with the hinges on them, and this is the little bolt to go through your wooden post. I don't think you'd get off too well if you try to put that through a metal post, but they zip tie these things on here. So I'm gonna take that off, get this all ready to go. This one cut. I guess it'd make life easier. Anyhow, you get those cut off, and then it takes a, what do we got here? 9/16 socket. You know, loosen these little things up here, so you can spin them and adjust them to where you want them. I'll take them loose off the camera. And I'm going to take those loose. It looks like, well, I wanted to get this screw out to show you. I'll show you when we go to put it in. But from the gates I see around here, for your, they come in like, well, you can get a 3-foot gate, but then after 3 foot, they go to 4 foot, and then they go 2 foot increments in size, all the way up to, I don't know how many feet, but at least 16 feet. But when you get up to a 12-foot gate, it should come with 2 hinges. Once you get into the next size up would be a 14-foot gate, and those will tend to come with 3 hinges. And I have a 16-foot gate that actually came with 4 hinges. So just pointing that out. Make sure when you're buying your gate, make sure you got your hinges on it. If you're going to use a electric gate operator, you probably don't want to use these things. They don't work great. They're not real smooth. Even if you get them perfect, they're still not perfectly smooth. And if you're on a larger gate especially, they make weld-on bearings hinges. So you're going to want to go with that if you're going to do a gate operator. Obviously, this isn't going to get a gate operator on it. So those hinges will work just fine. You'll see when we get there. And the other quick thing I like to do while I have it up here close to my shop, I just check all their little welds where they weld this grill on here, and their welds on the joints. Sometimes their welds can get a little iffy, and I'll just spot weld those on a little better if I see any bad ones. And then I also, they attempt, at least this manufacturer, I don't know if you can tell, but when they do weld this stuff together, they're welding the galvanized, and then they weld it, and then they're spraying, it might be that same paint that I'm using, but they spray this gray paint, and they don't, the guy that does it, he's not too concerned about doing a very good job getting his paint on here. You can see this is already rusting, and this hasn't even never been installed yet. So I'll go ahead and hit those once I get it installed. I want to paint the bottoms though where I cut, because once it is installed, that's going to be impossible to get some paint on it. And then what's the other thing? This is, again, the steel galvanized gate. They also make them painted. I see red ones and green ones. I don't know what the price difference is. The painted ones might be cheaper than the galvanized. They might be a little bit more. The one thing I've noticed, and the reason I'm going with the galvanized, is one thing I notice when I'm driving around, and you can drive around and notice the same thing. If you look over time how well these galvanized gates hold up, they'll turn a dull gray. They won't have that shiny look to them anymore. They'll turn a dull gray, and then that's where they'll stay. And you'll notice on the painted ones, over time, the paint flakes and peels off, and those gates are they're all rusted out. They look terrible. So I would advise against going with the painted gate. I would get the galvanized gate. And then if you wanted to paint it a certain color, you could paint over the galvanizing. But as far as long-term durability, these galvanized gates seem to last a whole lot longer than the painted ones. And again, I don't know what the difference in cost is if one's cheaper. The price difference can't be that much. But it's just something you want to consider. You know, these gates do last a lot longer than the painted gates do, and that's evident from you'll see it in your own observations as you drive around and look at old gates that people have installed. So again, I'm gonna get this other end cut off. I'm gonna get some paint on there and give it about an hour to dry, and then we'll carry it down and pick up from there. I have a situation here where I could hinge my gate from either side. I mean, I own both sides of this fence, so I could run my gate either way. I could swing that way, or I could swing that way. And again, I'm going to make this a two-way gate, even though the ground is a little bit high on this side. If I ever did want to open the gate, I can just dig out a little bit of that. Like I said, this isn't a gate I plan on using anytime soon. Maybe not even ever, but it's going to be here in case I do need it. So the easiest way I'm going to determine which post I'm going to put my gate on is I'm going to set the gate in the opening, and then I'm going to hinge to my higher side. So you can see this is my higher side. So I'm going to go ahead and hinge off of this post over here, and then let the gate swing this way. Okay, here's another one of those things. You can't really see it on the camera. Yeah, maybe a little bit right there. But what I've done here is I've taken my 4-foot level, and I just put it up here until I'm plumb, and then I just draw myself a line perfectly plumb. What that's going to do is that's going to give me 2 points to drill for my hinges, and they'll be in line with each other. So that's a real easy way to do that. So now what I'm going to do is come over here. I'm going to take these loose so I can get them out, and then I'll get these adjusted to where I'm going to want them and figure out where my screw holes need to be. Okay, I have both my hinges positioned to where I want them to be. So once this one's all the way tightened, it's still loose, but once it's all the way tightened, this is where it's going to be. I'm down to the bottom of this bar. I can't go any lower. I'm kind of limited where I can go here, up and down. But you'll see here, I'm down all the way to the bottom of this. So once I get this thing set in place, I'm going to have to slide this. Once I get this set in, I'm going to slide this up while it's still loose, set my gate in place, and then I'll slide this down onto the pin and tighten it as I need to be. And then I'm also gonna do up here. Now this one is the opposite. You'll notice this hinge is going, this is hooking up, and you'll notice this one is hooking down. It's a sure sign you have no idea what you're doing if you put your gate hinges both going up like this, and for a number of reasons. One, it's not doing you any good. You're thinking, well, that gate will ride better on both these pins, but that's not really what's happening. So that's the big reason. You have to understand the mechanics behind what's going on here. If you were to drop that end of the gate, okay, this pin or this hinge doesn't go down. Okay, gravity's pulling on that end of the gate, pulling it down to the ground. So when that end's getting pulled down, it's pushing this end up. Okay, it's not trying to push it down. Both sides of this gate are not trying to push down. So the mechanics of this tell you that you should have this top one facing what most people would consider upside down. Okay, the other reason you want to do this is a small gate. It's really light, and my dogs will get their noses underneath this fence easy. You know, if they see a squirrel or something over here on the other side of this fence, and once this, or the other side of this gate, and once they know this gate is a way to get to the other side of that fence, they're going to go to this gate. They're going to stick their noses under here, and if you have both of these turned this way, even just a dog, let alone a cow or a horse or anything like that, or a pig, but anything is going to be able to lift this gate right up off these hinges. You know, they say it's an anti-theft thing. I don't have to worry about anybody coming down here to steal my gate. I don't think there's a black market out there for stolen gates. You know, I didn't see any stolen gates listed for sale online anywhere or in the dark web. But, and I'm pretty sure my dogs would have a problem with somebody coming in here and stealing the gate. But just, you need to make sure you put your hinge pins the right direction. Again, the main reason, it's just the mechanics of the whole thing. If you picture which way the weight of that gate is pulling, it's pulling this end up, okay? Gravity's pulling that one down. You got that covered here, but it's not pulling this one down. It's trying to pull the gate up. So you wanna counteract that by making sure your pins one up and one down. So what I'm doing here now is I'm gonna set, when I put it over here on this post, I'm gonna set it on this board, so I'll be a little bit off the ground. And then I'm gonna measure, so from my board, okay, so from my board to the center of that pin, I'm about 4 3/4 inches. And then to the center of this pin, I'm 33 inches. So I'm gonna measure that, and I'm gonna move my board over here and measure that out and put myself 2 marks on this pencil line I drew in here. And then that will tell me where I need to drill my holes. So once I get these set in, this is where they're gonna be. I'll lift this hinge up. Once this is set into the post, I'll lift this hinge up while it's still loose, and then I'll just push it down onto the pin and tighten it up. And then I'll do the opposite up here. So I'll slide this one all the way down. Once this is secured into the post, I'll have this slid down. I'll push it up onto my pin like you see there and tighten it up, and then I'll be set. Okay, so I said my measurement is 4 3/4 and 33 inches. So I have a mark. You can see it right there at 4 3/4 inches. But now when I come up here to my 33 inches, look what happens. I'm right on that wire. So I don't have room to raise that up an inch, so I'm gonna drop this down to where it's just below that wire, and I'll have enough room to still adjust and get that hinge on. But that's just one problem. There's my 33 inch mark. So I'm just gonna drill my hole and put my other screw just below this water. This part should go without saying, but I'm using a 1/2 inch drill bit. You want your drill bit, you want to pre-drill these. It's going to make it a lot easier to get it in, and you won't split your wood. But I want my drill bit to be, you want your drill bit to be sized. I'm pretty sure all these things come in the same size, but you want your drill bit to be the size of that, inside shaft, but you don't want it bigger than the threads. So a 1/2 inch for this one works out about perfect for me. I'll have threads on both sides. You definitely don't want to drill your hole bigger than your threads, because then you won't have anything to thread into. You could go a little bit smaller, but the smaller you go, the harder it's going to be for you to twist these things in. So a 1/2 inch is just about the happy medium, where I'm not too big and not too small. The other thing you'll notice here, my drill bit is the perfect length for these threads. I didn't measure this, but you're gonna wanna, you don't wanna drill your hole deeper than you have to. So the depth of this bit gives me a perfect hole. So it'll be seated in right up to the edge of the threads. And then you're gonna need some adjustment, so you can go either in or out once you get this set. But that comes out perfect. So just make sure you don't over drill. You don't want to drill all the way through your post. This is a 6-inch post. Okay, and then I just grab these with the pliers and twist them in. You want to make sure you're keeping them kind of straight with your hole as you get started. Once you get it in there a little bit, it'll self-align with the hole, but if you don't, it's going to strip your threads on the outermost side of the wood. So I'm going to screw these in, and then I'm just going to leave about 3 or 4 threads. You can see here I have 1, 2, 3 threads exposed. I'll do the same up here. I'm going to run this in until I've got 3 threads exposed, and then I'm going to set my level between the two and see, because this is going to be dependent on how plumb your post is. So I'm going to run these into both about the same, and I'm going to put my level up here and get it plumb, or see how far off I am, because I might have to take one out a turn at a time, or put one in a turn at a time, just to get until I'm perfectly plumb between these 2 hinges. And then once you set your gate on there, you'll see that makes it a whole lot easier than trying to put the gate on here. See if the gate's level, take the gate back off, turn one of these. So that's my trick to how I do it. I just I'll set the level right up here between the 2 hinges, or the 2 pins, you'll see here. Okay, so I'm gonna put my level up against that one. Put my level up against that one. Check my bubble. And you can see I am dead on the money. So I ended up having to, I screwed this one in all the way to flush. And you can see this one's screwed out a little bit. And that gets me, I get the sun fighting against me. But that gets me perfectly level. So I should be pretty close when I go to set this gate on here. I mean, it might droop or sag just a little bit if you don't have everything tight, but for the most part, I'm going to be pretty good. Now, the other thing I do, you see my pencil line here. So I'm just kind of eyeballing this pin and making sure it's perfectly in line with my pencil line up there. And up here, you can't see the pencil line in the camera here because it's right on this crack, but I'm looking out, I'm making sure I'm not kicked out a little bit too far one way or the other, because that's going to bind on you. And you know, the gate will still work if you don't have them perfect, but a little bit of binding though, yeah, if you can do away with it, do away with it. So just make sure these are perfectly aligned. So now what I'm going to do, I still have these hinges loose. I'm going to set my block of wood down here. I'm going to set the bottom of the fence up here, And I'm gonna slide this one over this pin, and then this one is gonna slide. Well, I need to move these down so that I can adjust them. I want to move this down enough to where I got room to slide it up. And then this one is going to slide down. That one's a little bit looser already, so I'll lift it up by hand. I'm going to go and set these. I won't be able to do this on the camera, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to lift this hinge up, and then I'm going to slip it down onto my pin. And then I'll do just the opposite with this one. I'll get it under my pin, so my pin will be up here. I'll push this one up, and then I'll tighten both of the nuts on the back side of these. Okay, so my ground's not level, so I got this end of my fence just sitting on a couple boards until I get it level this way. See how close I am. I'm a little. So until I can get it level that way, I'll level it up with these boards. Now I've got these set, they're still loose, I haven't tightened them yet. So I've gone ahead, I pushed this one all the way down. I got this one pushed all the way up. And then what I'm gonna do here, because you can twist these one way or the other if you're a little out of level. I'm going to put my level right up perfectly on both these hinges, and you can see, so I'm dead on the money. So my gate is perfectly level going this way and perfectly plumb side to side this way. So now all I have to do left is tighten these up. And again, my spacing between my two posts here is exactly 10 feet. You can see I've got enough room still for my hinges. And then down at that end, I'm just going to use the chain. But should I later put on a latch, the latches need a minimum of 2 inches of space to clear. So I've got my perfect 2 inches down at that end. So if I ever do decide I'm going to put a latch on here, I'm already set to do it. And I'm just going to tighten these up. Okay, these are not grade 8 bolts, so they will break if you over tighten them. I tighten them until you can see it just starts to notice a bend in it, and then I know I got that thing good and tight. That little bit of bend in there will help things not want to come loose. I gone ahead and kicked my boards out from underneath. I've checked here. I'm perfectly level this way. I'm perfectly plumb this way. And my gate moves nice and easy. Stays wherever I put it. Closes nice and easy. So if you take away anything from this video, this is the one thing I want you to remember. Put the top pin pointing down, the bottom pin pointing up. Think of the mechanics of how this gate is working. If I pulled that bottom hinge off there, which way is this going to go? It's not going to go down. The whole gate's going to lean that way, and it's going to try to lift this up. So your force is going up on this pin, not down. Don't turn both your pins facing the same way, and then you'll prevent the problem of somebody being able to lift this gate and lift it off. You cannot lift this gate off. Or if you get a bunch of snow piled up underneath your gate and you go to open it and it rides up on the snow, it'll lift right off that hinge. So again, it's mainly for the mechanics of it, but it's also to prevent animals from lifting the gate up, and then depending on your neighborhood, keeping people from just lifting off your gate and carrying it down the road. So I mean, yeah, they could still steal your gate. They could take the bolts out, but it's going to be a lot of trouble. So, you know, if it's something's a lot of trouble for somebody to do, they're likely not going to do it. Whereas if in under 2 seconds, they can just lift your gate up and throw it in the back of the truck and be down the road, you know, why not? So that's gonna conclude it. Got a nice working gate here. Now I can take all my temporary fence down. I'm done with it. Thanks for watching. Okay, I'll show you 2 examples of latches. This is just a little 3-foot gate. This is a walk-through gate because I'm going to be installing a gate operator on this gate on the driveway. So this is going to be just a manual walk-through gate. But here's one latch. And the way this thing works, you just lift it. This is a 2-way latch. You lift that little pin up and it goes this way. Duke, go back in there. Duke, come on, back in. Come on, back in. Good boy. And then you can open the latch and you can open it this way. So that's what they mean by 2-way gate. You can open it this way or that way. So this is a 2-way latch. Now one thing here, when I put my posts in, see, I got pretty good spacing there, and I got pretty good spacing there. However, when I put my posts in here, I got them too close together. You need that 2 inches right here. So the way I worked around that, and to get this piece to set flush, but I don't mind it not setting flush, but this is so I could give myself more room here. I cut into my post with the chainsaw. You can see there, you want to leave yourself, you want to cut below this because you have, this piece on there. So you want to get yourself so that piece will clear. But you can see, so that bought me almost an inch cutting into this post. And then it also made it set flat to the post because these things don't come curved. So that's one thing you can do if you do end up getting your posts too close together. So you can make up for a little bit of room there. You can also make up for some room here. You can loosen these and turn them. You're only going to get a 1-way gate if you do that, but you can turn these, and then that'll give you another 2 inches in case you get your posts too close together. I'll go show you a couple more examples. Okay, here's a good example of, I put this in as a 2-way gate, but there you can't tell in the video, I'm sure, but there's a steep hill on my gravel driveway going the other way, so you can't, I can't open this 2 ways even if I wanted to, but I did put a 2-way latch on here, and you can see here, this is how they come. See how they're flat? And if you put them up flat to the post, you got enough room to get your 4 lag screws in there, but you're gonna have a little bit of a gap. Whereas if you cut it back and then go flat all the way down, it'll set up there flush in your middle, but this isn't a problem. So here's another one though, where I got both these posts too close together. Now, instead of making up my distance here like I did on that last one I just showed you, here's what you can do, is you can rotate this hinge all the way around, and then that gives you that 2 inches. So if I were to straighten this out, it'd be this post right here would be all the way out to here. So you can see how I rotated that around. And the reason I can get away with that on this one is because, again, this is just a 1-way gate. So I have full room to open it all the way this way. But if I could open it out, I wouldn't be able to, because look what happens here. See, I get right into, all of a sudden I hit the post here. So this won't open both ways. And I'm fine with that, again, because if you look, that's a hill going up. So that's another 2-way latch in a 1-way installation, I guess you could call it. And a little trick you can do if you do get your post too close. Okay, this one here is what they call a 1-way latch. It's a little bit different. There's no pin that you lift up on here. I would have preferred they left a little bit of this sticking up, but I guess you'll get animals knocking it over if you do it that way. But this one works a little bit different. And again, this gate only goes one way. So the way to get this one open, you have to push this little thing here up from down in there, and then pinch your finger when you pull that back open. So again, you're kind of pushing that up. I don't particularly care for this type. So, and then when it closes, it self-locks. Like I said, I don't particularly care for this type. I've thought about maybe drilling a hole in here and threading it and putting a little bit of a bolt sticking up here so that I've got something I can grab, because otherwise you got to stick your finger inside there and then pull this thing out at the same time. It's kind of a hassle. I can see why they did it that way. So again, so animals getting their paws or whatever up here, their hoofs, aren't pulling the gate open. I don't have that problem. So like I said, I'll probably, I might even take this off and weld a tab on here coming up, just so I got something up here that I can grab. I ordered this on Amazon, and in the picture it actually did stand up. So apparently somebody must have complained that their animal was able to get its foot up here and pull the gate open, so they started cutting them off flush instead of leaving a little bit sticking up so you can get it with your finger. Again, I don't have that problem, so I'll either weld something or put a bolt in there. This is one of those gates that pretty much never gets used, so I'm not too worried about it. But there we go.